Welcome to the Founders Corner, brought to you by OneBridge Accounting. Here's your host, Eli Clark. Welcome back to the show. Today's guest is Mike Whitmire. Mike is an experienced marketing executive with over 20 years of experience in leading marketing campaigns. He's been the VP of marketing at Upwell Health, the Red Flag Group, as well as Avedon Health, among other marketing and management positions. He is currently the founder of HireCMO.com. Mike, very excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Eli. Really happy to be here. So thank you for having me on your podcast.
Of course. Well, let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about kind of some of your past experiences and how that's kind of shaped what you're doing now at Hire CMO.
Yeah, so you named off a number of these different companies I've worked for, and it's really been a culmination of really healthcare, manufacturing, software, different industries like this where I've been able to manage multiple people in these teams. But what I've come across is many of these historical companies that have tried traditional marketing, they've really kind of struggled because they didn't have a cohesive marketing strategy. So oftentimes they're very tactics based, and they want to report on, what are the Google metrics, what is this, what is that, but they lack a lot of the cohesive marketing strategy across what we've built inside of Hire CMO, which is called the 7 pillars of growth. And the seven pillars of hyper growth is really focused around things like culture, messaging and positioning, digital marketing, CRM, your marketing automation platform. What are your strategic relationships that you have? And are there any new revenue streams that you're focused on? So really kind of taking a more cohesive look around their marketing strategy. And what we found is many of these lack not just 1 or 2 of those pillars, but oftentimes 3 or 4 of these pillars. They're just focused on tactic-based marketing, and they're not really focused on a cohesive marketing strategy.
Can you give us an example of what do you mean by tactic-based marketing versus kind of this cohesive 360 marketing?
Yeah. So, they really want to jump into Facebook ads, or they really want to jump into, perhaps a campaign that's an email campaign or something to do with a Google Ads campaign. And what we find is that maybe they don't have a marketing messaging framework, right? They don't. Their team and their culture doesn't speak the same language. So some of the tools that we bring in are things like a pyramid of purpose, where we get the executives in a room to tell us what the highest priorities are for the year, but also what are the highest priorities for the quarter. And we listen to their language that they're using. And oftentimes, not only are they not prioritized on the same thing, so they don't know what each other is working on, which just blows me away oftentimes. But they also, they're not using the same language or the same lexicon. So the language that they're articulating is all over the place. And you can tell they don't have a really good brand and a culture around that brand that really kind of emphasizes their why and what matters to them and why they're important in the market, how they stand out from the competition.
Interesting. Yeah. So they're kind of more focused on, let's just run Facebook ads, or let's just run Google PPC, for example. And there's not maybe a foundation that those tactics can build upon. Is that right?
Yeah, there's not a foundation those tactics can build upon. And oftentimes, like I said, they'll have 1 or 2 pieces. Maybe I have one client that they're a smaller business that they purchased Salesforce Cloud and they've got their email marketing up and running, but nobody's walked them through really a marketing messaging positioning exercise. So everybody's saying different things. Their campaigns are kind of all over the map. They're not unique, better, or different in the market. And I use this a lot with the companies that I work with is, hey, what makes you unique, better, or different? And oftentimes they can't tell us. So we come in and we really help them differentiate their messaging and their brand. And we start with culture, but it usually ends up in a really good foundation using AI tools. But the AI tools are just assisting us in really kind of implementing our playbook with them around creating a cohesive marketing strategy.
No, I love that. And we'll talk a little bit about AI a little bit later because
Okay,
I think there's going to be some really fun things that we can kind of talk about there. Would love to kind of get your thoughts on that. But
sure,
let's talk
sure.
kind of about the people element of that first before we kind of jump into the AI stuff. Um, what's kind of been your experience with hiring or managing a team, whether that's in the past or your current team? I know you've got a pretty big team over at Hire CMO, but how has kind of your experiences in the past, your current experiences changed how you lead today?
So always lead with kindness. I think kindness is always paramount. So you'll find that on our website. We're really big culturally in giving back, and
Mm,
we sit on a lot of different advisory boards. Many of the chief marketing officers that work at Hire CMO um, donate their time. They work with groups like Forrester.org or Living Connected, mental health, suicide prevention, those types of
mm,
things. But
yeah,
kindness, empathy, being real, I think
yeah.
is really important in today's day around marketing agencies. But from a team perspective, what I look for is not just are they tactically um, a solid marketer, but are they a really
Mhm.
good cultural fit? And do they have a passion towards kindness, being kind, or do they have a passion around the industries that they've kind of built their professional career around? So I really look at not just what they have as far as talent, technical
Mhm.
talent, but I look at what they've done to impact, um, the industry they're in, or even people in general in that industry.
So the culture, you say almost like the cultural fit is just as important or more important than kind of some of the tactical skills when it comes to managing a team or building a
Yes,
team.
yeah, yeah. In fact, and I'll give you an example.
Yeah, please
Uh,
do.
I was at I won't say the name of the company, but I was the head of a company's marketing team, and
Mhm.
I had an intern that came in, was working for me. He was out at ASU here, and uh, the CEO wanted to fire the intern. He
Oh,
just
mhm.
came to me one day and said, "I want to get rid of this individual. He's not a good cultural fit because he hasn't articulated. He hasn't been outspoken. It just looks like he's sitting and not doing anything." Turns out this individual had his own side business. He was very much a pillar of the community. He turned out to be one of the best marketers on my team as an intern. He was willing to learn. He was savvy in his responses. He had an eye for telling truth well told. So he had a real spark to him that I loved, and he ended up working for me for the last 9 years. So um, it just goes to show you don't always judge a book by its cover, and I think a lot of executives tend to do that. They don't give
Yeah.
somebody a chance. And this particular individual I gave a chance. He was just a great cultural fit. He had a great passion for what he does, and he's one hell of a marketer. So
I
I'm
love
very
that. I like
proud
what
of
you're
him.
saying, like give people a chance. Like I've heard
Yeah,
that when you interview somebody for a new position, whether it's an internship or a job, like in that first interview, you're doing a vibe check, but can we actually know somebody that well in one interview? I've heard of some
yeah,
companies doing 6 or 7 interviews to really try and understand somebody. Do you feel like, that's like if you're looking to build a team, whether you're bringing on contractors, you're bringing on employees, whatever that is, do you feel like 6 or 7 interviews is sufficient? Do you feel like that's excessive? Like just from your experience in kind of building out teams, what does that process look like for you when you're bringing on
yeah.
people?
Yeah, I usually use like the scoring methodology, and so I get a little geeky with it. But a
Yeah.
lot of it's the cultural questions that we ask. So a lot of it is like, what do you like to do in your free time? And, if
Mm,
they love to read, I ask them, what do you like to read? I like to read sci-fi. Great. What kind of sci-fi books do you like? What inspires you to read sci-fi? How does that help you in creating great marketing materials? How do
right.
you become more strategic when you're out working with um, the homeless or whatever they're passionate about? And a lot of times those responses will tip an interview into at least a finalist. And I
Mm,
think that culturally gives that individual a leg up. because oftentimes people will state that they can technically do the job. And this sometimes this becomes a problem too. We're really very proficient with marketing automation platforms like Marketo and Eloqua and um, HubSpot, a number of these marketing automation platforms. And
Right.
technically is important too. So we typically have an assignment, but oftentimes it's the cultural fit that ends up being the tipping point for the person actually either being employed by hire CMO or becoming a contractor. And I think that's what makes our agency really different and unique is that we really find passionate people that love what they do.
I think that's important in especially service based, right? In
Yes.
the marketing industry, like, we're going to talk about AI, and AI
Yeah.
is the hot topic, right? It's the thing that's really important, and or the thing that's kind of going on right now. But I think it's important to remember that marketing is still a service based industry, right? And
Yes.
it's based on human interactions, and both internally within your company, how you get on with each other, but also how you get on with your clients, right? Like I talk about this sometimes with some of our clients, is it's okay to fire clients that aren't a good fit for you, right? Your
Yes.
own clients that you have, and sometimes that happens, right? But so I think the same thing applies when you're building a team, is finding that cultural fit, like you're saying, is really
Mhm.
important.
Yeah. And we've just like what you said, sometimes we'll approach a prospect or a potential new client. And after we get done listening to what they're trying to do, we'll just say, we're not a great fit for this. And we'll tell you
Mm,
why. You're looking really for a Google shop. Let me get you to one of the best Google shops that we know. I make an introduction to the CEO. I said, this is going to be a better fit for you. We're really more of a strategic chief marketing officer agency that really
yeah.
focuses on those 7 pillars. So we tend to refer a lot of business to a lot of these types of more tactical agencies.
Hmm.
Not that we don't do digital marketing. Digital marketing is a big portion of what we do, but it's really not the keystone pillar of what we offer.
Yeah. Really kind of niche down and kind of more that strategy, those pillars
Yes.
like you're talking about.
Yeah. hmm
That's
Yeah.
great.
More of a more of a foundational marketing. And what we find is if we start creating messaging and positioning and a lot of the digital marketing materials, they tend to spread over different platforms using AI. Obviously, we use a number of AI tools, but we have a sales playbook that we use that we typically roll out once we've got a lot of the foundational marketing materials kind of built underneath that
Yeah.
brand.
That's very cool. Very cool. Well, let's move on. I would love to let's talk
Yeah.
a little bit more about kind of some experience before we jump into talking about tools. But kind of looking back at maybe the early days of your career, what is one decision that you unknowingly made then that set you up for success, either in a recent position or with higher CMO? Like looking back, hindsight 2020, what's one thing that you look back and you're like, wow, that was an impactful decision that I made.
Well, I was at 3Com during the Bluetooth era, and I worked for a man that is my mentor, and he would push me both from a product marketing standpoint and also a messaging standpoint. And the decision to follow him to McCann Erickson, which was a large agency in Salt Lake City, now
Hmm.
is called MRM, was probably one of the best decisions of my life. It was probably one of the hardest decisions of my life. It's very difficult to work for those agencies. They require a lot out of you, and they expect brilliance every day. You have to bring brilliance to your team. And so I was on the strategy team at McCann Erickson, and I would say what this individual taught me was to really focus on pain point analysis and really kind of understand pain points
Mm,
of not only your audience and the buyers, but
yeah.
also like who those buyers collaborate with, their network, the people they hang out with. So the individual taught me to be a better marketer and really not tactic based, but more strategic thinking. And so
Yeah.
he has since retired, but he really gave me the foundation. He would oftentimes rip up a lot of my work and say, "This isn't good enough. Come back.
Oh
I need
yeah.
this by the end of today." So he pushed me, and I think a lot of that is missing in today's marketing campaigns and a lot of the strategies is, we settle for good, especially with AI now.
Right.
A lot of companies think that, hey, ChatGPT just spit this out. Look at it. It's brilliant. Let's use it. And they don't really stop and really think about every component of this.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. What am I getting?
does
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
actually, did that actually solve the pain point of that particular audience, or did it meet a need for that audience? And oftentimes it's no, it does not. So the original thinking, the authentic thinking, I think is really missing in marketing today. And I would say in those early days, working with somebody that made me realize that authentic thinking is critical for every
Hmm.
marketing um, strategy and every campaign that's built. Has really made me and my team
I love
better
that idea.
agents.
Like we talked about this a little bit earlier, like authenticity, right? Authenticity's
Yeah,
in, right? But it's always, right, being genuine, being authentic, original thinking. Like I think those are all kind of in the same wavelength of being your own person and not allowing tools to kind of rule your life, but you ruling the tools, right?
yeah,
And using those to direct
exactly.
what you
Yeah.
have, what your strategy, right? That's key.
Yeah, and
So,
what's fun is a lot of the chief marketing officers that work under higher CMO, they have a lot of different industry experience. Some are really
mm,
good in finance, some are good in healthcare, some are good in manufacturing. We have drone, you know,
oh yeah,
knowledge, and a
all
lot of
over.
different
Yeah.
really niche areas, which really makes it fun for me as the founder of higher CMO, because I'm constantly learning, right? So they're constantly teaching me methods that have worked for them in the past, and so
Yeah.
I feel like a student to a lot of the higher end marketers that that we plug into different organizations, which also makes Hire Simone a little bit unique. Is that oftentimes we'll come in with a couple of different chief marketing officers to see which of us has the better skill set to serve the needs of that individual brand, and
Right.
that's served us well too.
Very, very cool. Very cool. Well, we've been teasing AI tools a little bit, so let's jump into that. Let's talk about tools and things.
Okay.
I'd love to let's just start in talking. Like, what kind of tools or systems are you guys using that have had the biggest impact on streamlining your operations? Give us just kind of an overview of like, I guess, what your tech stack looks like.
Yeah. So, our tech stack uses a number of different. I think we're at an advantage is that marketing gets to touch a lot of different areas of the business, right? So we're working with product, working with the C-suite, we're working with customer service, we're working with the design teams.
Hmm.
So we really are honestly the point of the spear as far as touching a lot of different AI tools. And the tools we use are tools like, Claude just came out with their 4.0 product. Their data set's incredible. They've added more reasoning to their algorithms. And really, Claude is a big component of what we do as far as messaging and positioning. But again, I'll caveat that AI, where it's just 100% used without really oversight, is not who we are. We really like to call it AI, or amplified human strategy. So
Yeah.
we AI is used to amplify the human strategy that we put in. So the tech stack being like Claude is used. We use Midjourney as a visual tool. We use
Yeah.
Cove.ai for whiteboarding sessions. The list goes on and on. If we get into automated programming, we have some of our engineers use those tool sets. But again, without going into too much detail, we typically blend those over our existing strategy, and they can maybe enhance the direction we're going, but they don't replace the strategy or the
Of course.
messaging
Yeah.
or the campaigns that we build. We also use HubSpot a lot. A lot of our clients use HubSpot. Some of our larger clients use Salesforce,
Yeah.
Marketo. They all have AI components built into the tools. So that typically are the tech stacks that we're using. Sometimes it's what the clients bring, but a lot of
Mm.
these clients will have their own AI tools, Chat GPT. We've even created our own custom Chat GPTs. We have a product market fit tool that we'll implement inside of organizations that are struggling to find product market fit.
Yeah.
So we have an 11-step process that we use for that. Uh, I think AI varies across different channels, audiences, contexts. It's great for content development. But as far as a strategy, typically a strategy is out of the heads of our chief marketing officers.
No, I love that. I love that. We've kind of touched on this idea a little bit of like balancing kind of the human input with the AI tools. How do you
Yeah.
find that balance? Because I think it can be really easy to, like you're saying, throw a prompt in a Chat GPT or throw a prompt into Midjourney and you've got an image. You're like, oh, I don't need a graphic designer anymore. Or
Yeah.
you throw
Yeah.
something in Chat GPT, you're like, oh, I don't need a copywriter. How do you find a balance between those the amazing benefits of the AI tools, right? And then the very necessary input of kind of the humans and the experts. How do you find that balance?
Authenticity always wins. So an authentic image or an authentic video capture of somebody doing something authentic is always going to produce better results than an AI-driven image or series
Right.
of images. Obviously, AI is getting better and better, especially even around video. It's incredible the advancements being made around AI video, but
Yes. Yeah.
most people can still see the difference. They know that it's AI generated. It's
Mhm.
a little too shiny. It's a little too perfect. And
Right.
really,
Yeah.
I think as humans, we're looking for the deficiencies. We're looking for the authenticity that
Yeah.
exists in the market. And it's okay to expose those chinks in the armor, right? Like the problems that we all have, I think is really what makes us human. And I think from our point of view, balancing, blending some imagery, but trying to incorporate a lot of realistic imagery into the campaign is still really, really important because
Mm.
for those that know, they can see the difference between a fake AI
Oh yeah.
image and a real authentic image. So for us, we tend to lean on the authenticity meter, a
Lean
little
a
to the
little
right.
heavier. Yeah.
Yeah, we
That's
lean a little
that's the
heavier on
balance. Yeah.
things. Yeah, that's the balance.
So when you're evaluating, you're looking at new tools, you're looking at new again, because things are evolving so quickly, right? Sometimes on a daily or a weekly basis. How do you evaluate which tools to adopt in such a way that it's not messing up operations? Because I do find sometimes uh, when you add a new system or you add a new tool, sometimes that process itself is
Yeah,
a bigger hindrance than just doing it the old way, right? So how do you
yeah.
find or how do you evaluate, how do you adopt new tools without overwhelming your team or disrupting what's going on already?
So we have a very simple rule. If it builds and not detracts from our 7 pillars of hypergrowth
Hmm.
that we use as the foundation of, when we go into a new business or a new client opportunity, then we will use it. But we're very cautious. If it's a new tool, we'll typically let the client know that, hey, this is a brand new tool. Let's test it together. If it doesn't work, we have a backup of using something that's maybe more traditional method of getting the job done. And so again, we have a number of sales playbooks, but those 7 pillars, if the AI tool disrupts one of those pillars, we typically don't use. And
Hmm.
there are a lot of those tools out there. There's even tools now for AI that will take your voice and duplicate your own human voice.
Yeah.
And in automating the responses, well, a lot of our clients don't trust that it's going to be an authentic response in,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
what it produces. It's going to be very, it's going to sound too structured. A lot
Yeah.
of the copy that you see that's in social media will start out with like, throughout mankind, something really grandiose.
Right. Yeah.
Automatically, that's generated with AI right off the bat, and you just immediately lose your audience. So I think I think the the team understands that it has to balance across those 7 pillars and not be disruptive.
I
Because
love
at
that.
the end of the day, it's hurting our clients if it does.
That's great. Well, Mike, let's wrap up with a final question. I like to ask this, especially as we're kind of looking to the future. What trends in marketing are you paying the most attention to right now? What do you see on the horizon? What should people kind of keep an eye out for?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're finding a lot of success in helping our clients build strategic relationships. Um, and referral programs are really, really big right now.
Mm.
I think being relationship based, it's a difficult market still. So the relationships that we can help our clients build that will either highlight, spotlight, get their services in the workplace or towards a target audience buyer is really key. So a lot of the work we've been doing lately is relationship building on the behalf of our clients. From an AI standpoint, I think we've seen a lot of really cool marketing automation advancements being made, where you have more of AI is able to blend the strategy that we come up with across all those different pillars and all the different communications. So now, not just will the ebook have that strategic framework in it, but also all the social media posts will have that strategic framework, articulated based off of that playbook. The CRM, the sequences, the email sequences that are going out are all cohesive. So really, AI is doing a great job of cohesively distributing a message that we come up with across all those different channels. So I love that's
Great.
Really
That's great.
helpful. Yeah, because historically it was very difficult to get the different teams to adopt.
Well, Mike, thanks again. I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been great,
Yeah.
a great experience. If people want to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me at mike@hirecmo.com as far as email, or they can go out to hirecmo.com and fill out the contact information.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks again, Mike. It's been great having you on the show.
Thank you, Eli. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of The Founders Corner, the podcast series for marketing firms and agencies looking to learn and level up their business. You can check out more podcasts and other content from OneBridge Accounting by following the links in the show notes. At OneBridge Accounting, we're all about helping marketing and creative firms organize their finances, maximize their profits, save cash, and automate their accounting and finance functions. Check out our other resources and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.